Hi, welcome to Rajal Naik. In today's video, I am going to discuss about the business analyst role in reference to the Medicaid program. Because as we all know, in reference to the healthcare, being a business analyst, whenever we are working on, we need to have a complete awareness over claim processing and claim adjudication. At the same time, need to have a knowledge over different programs relating to Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff. So even in reference to the Medicare, there are 4 different programs, as we all know, like A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. But Medicaid is a program exclusively designed for low-income group people as well as for the disabled people. And these Medicare programs is being managed and organized by the state governments, not by the federal, because of course, support will be given by the federal government. But whatever the program execution and managing the program, everything based upon the state governments, right? So whatever the states are there, that state governments will take care of. US states, different states and all, whatever the program benefits. At the same time, rules and regulations may slightly vary from state to state. So as there are opportunities in reference to the Medicaid BA, most of the people require to know what specific knowledge one has to acquire to become a business analyst in the Medicaid program. So in reference to that, I am going to explain you what are all the skill sets required for us and what is that we need to be good with. The first thing in reference to the Medicaid program, first of all, knowledge over Medicaid program. This is irrespective of the state, right? So state program, state sponsoring and all, irrespective of it, what and how the Medicaid works, right? So how this Medicaid program is functioning and working. So this is the first thing which we must be good with. Knowledge over Medicaid MMIS program. So how this functions and all, what are the program benefits and all, everything is what is required. At the same time, we need to have an awareness over the payer perspective, right? Healthcare payer perspective. That's knowledge is also one of the key and prominent element in reference to this here. Because there are 2 things. One is provider, second is a payer, right? Provider, nothing but whoever is providing the healthcare treatments and all, everything, hospitals, clinics, all that. At the same time, when we talk about payer means insurance companies, either it can be private insurance organizations or else government related CMS. CMS, you know, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So that knowledge is also required. So healthcare payer knowledge followed by Medicaid program. On a whole, I am talking about the detailed program about Medicaid program is what generally we need to have an idea. So Medicaid knowledge, MMIS knowledge is required. At the same time, knowing about the healthcare payer and all everything is also something essentially important. Along with this, there are some technicalities. Of course, this is not something exclusively for Medicaid BA, but nowadays technical business analyst, because becoming technical BA is essentially required nowadays. Earlier, we used to have only functional side business analyst knowledge, but nowadays knowledge over the technology is becoming inevitable in the role of a BA. So that knowledge over XML is also required, because extensible markup language, XML stands for extensible markup language, because different format of files we have, either it can be in XML, JSON, all that. So knowledge over XML is also one of the key and prominent element which we must be good with. Next thing about SQL, right? So knowing about SQL, structured query language, how to write queries, because if you want to extract the information from the data and all that, how we are going to extract. So that SQL knowledge, this is all something nothing to do with Medicaid as separate, Medicaid BA, but in general, technical BA perspective, if you think of, or if someone wants to apply for job opportunities in reference to the technicalities of business analyst, XML, SQL knowledge At the same time, knowledge over ETL tools, because extracting the data, right, translating the data, right, loading the data, these are all is required. So different, any one ETL tool I can say, not everything. So ETL tool knowledge, right? So extracting and as well as translating and loading the data. So those tools and all everything. So that knowledge is also required. Along with this, we need to have a knowledge over retrieving, viewing, and as well as analyzing the data. Because of course, using this ETL tools and SQL and all everything, we can retrieve, view, and analyze the data, all that. So that is also required here. Along with this, we need to know about the functionalities of CMS, which CMS stands for, as I told you, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So knowledge over CMS is also one of the pre and prominent element which we must be good with, right? So knowing about how CMS functions, payer, CMS is a payer, right? So whoever receives the claims and do the adjudication followed by the payment subsequently. So knowledge over CMS is also one of the key and prominent element one must be good with. At the same time, we must be knowing about MITA framework. Knowledge over MITA framework is also required. So whereas MITA stands for Medicaid Information Technology Architecture. So this is also required. So MITA, we call it as in short. So means Medicaid right? So Medicaid Information Technology Architecture, right? So MITA framework, because it's exclusive in the Medicaid field, Medicaid Information Technology Architecture. So this knowledge is also becoming knowing about this technology framework and how it functions and all that. So this is also some of the prominent and knowing things which we must be good with. Along with this, we need to know about the MACT, right? So whereas MACT stands for Medicaid Enterprise Certification Toolkit. Normally we call it as MECT stands for Medicaid Enterprise Certification Toolkit. So this knowledge is also becoming essentially important nowadays. So this is also one of the key and prominent aspect. We must be good when we are working on when we want to work as a Medicaid business analyst in the real world. Next part about HIPAA, because anyway, HIPAA required even in Medicare and Medicaid as well, right? So HIPAA, knowing about the formats of HIPAA, at the same time, messaging, like messaging formats, something like, I can say like, for example, HL7, okay, at the same time, X12, next need to have NCPDP, right? At the same time, NIEM, right? So etc. Right? These are all the different messaging formats in context to the HIPAA and all. So this knowledge is also becoming important. At the same time, need to have a knowledge over EVV also, right? So EVV stands for electronic visit verification. We call it as electronic visit verification. So this knowledge is also required. So whatever the knowledge over electronic visit verification, EVV knowledge is also required here. Along with this, we should be able in a position to track these HMSAs, all that. This is also required, right? So track the HMAs, SES, right? So at the same time, we need to have this knowledge over the compliance with CMS, right? So at the same time, the kind of program standards followed by the policies, etc. Right? So these are all something required in reference to the healthcare part, all that. At the same time, we need to have a knowledge over CMS generated performance metrics. So because different performance metrics will be prepared whenever we are working on CMS part, because from the payer perspective, right? So that knowledge is also required. Next, need to have knowledge over monitoring CMS regulations, right? Whatever the CMS regulations we have and all. So monitoring over the CMS regulations is also one of the key elements, because regulations, standards, everything should be knowing. And one of the prominent requirement as knowledge we need to have is adjusting the policies, procedures, followed by the kind of workflows, whatever we are working on, whatever the workflows we are working on, which will adapt changing requirements and identify the deficiencies in the current program quality. Whatever the kind of programs are we maintaining and all, we need to understand that. This knowledge is also required for a Medicaid person who is applying for opportunities, all that. At the same time, not only the qualities and all, at the same time, we must be knowing about the administration part as also. Administration part also. This is also one of the key and prominent element. And last point, but not least, knowing about at the same time having knowledge over monitoring the compliances, monitoring the compliance. So by preparing different reports followed by data validation. So this knowledge is also becoming exclusively important for a Medicaid business analyst. So normal skill set of a BA is known to everyone, because requirement gathering, understanding the requirements, enterprise analysis, requirement lifecycle management, business or strategy analysis, JAT sessions, user stories, UML diagrams, workflows, right? So at the same time, knowing about process flow diagrams, wireframes, mockups, use case preparations, test case, right? So these are all the common skill set for a BA. So that hence I am not explaining those points here, because those are all the known things for any BA, whoever is applying for job opportunities or who are working as a BA. So that I am not getting into that, because those are all the common qualities for a BA one must be good with. But exclusive for Medicaid, these are the maximum areas where, of course, I focused more on these points. So these are the major areas, being a person who is applying for job opportunities or who are transforming towards the healthcare side or towards Medicaid and all. This knowledge is essentially required. Knowing about HIPAA, MITA framework, how it functions, MECT, CMS related stuff, right? So EVV related, right? Tracking HMSA compliances, performance metrics, CMS regulations, right? So at the same time, monitoring the compliance reports and data validations, adjusting policies and procedures and workflows, right? So these sort of knowledge by administrating changing requirements, all that. So this is all something essentially needed for a person who is applying for Medicaid business analyst job opportunities. Is needed. This is all about this video. Thank you.